The baby's cries filled the first-class cabin like an alarm that wouldn't stop. Passengers groaned, flight attendants whispered, and the billionaire father sat helpless, sweat on his face and shame in his eyes. But when a poor black teenager stood up from the back of the plane and quietly said, "Sir, may I try?" no one expected what would happen next. Michael Carter wished the earth could swallow him whole. He was used to commanding boardrooms, not calming babies. Yet here he was, trapped 30,000 feet in the air with his 6-month-old daughter, Lily, who had been crying for almost an hour straight. Her tiny face was red, her little fists waving in the air, her wail cutting through the steady hum of the engines. The flight attendants had tried everything. Bottles, warm towels, soft lullabies, nothing worked. Some passengers pulled on sleep masks. Others sighed loudly, glancing toward Michael as if he were a criminal. A man in a gray suit muttered, "Some people should just fly private." Michael heard it. He pretended not to. Normally, he would have. He had enough money to buy every seat on the plane, but this wasn't about money. His wife had just come out of surgery, and he had promised her he could handle the trip alone with Lily. He thought he could manage. He was wrong. He bounced the baby in his arms again, whispering softly, "Come on, sweetheart. Please, please stop crying." His voice cracked. His tie hung loose, his expensive white shirt stained with milk. He felt smaller by the minute, not like a billionaire, just a tired father with no idea what to do. A flight attendant knelt beside him. "Sir, maybe she's in pain?" she asked gently. "We can have a minute. She's fine," Michael said quickly. Just tired, but he wasn't sure. And neither was anyone else. Across the aisle, a woman whispered to her husband, "Maybe he doesn't even know how to hold her right." Michael felt every whisper like a cut. He tried to turn Lily's face away from the lights, but the crying only grew louder. He could feel his eyes burning. He had faced shareholders and senators, but this was worse. The captain's voice came over the speakers, announcing turbulence ahead. As the plane shook slightly, Lily screamed even louder. A few people covered their ears. A baby's cry was normal, but this one, it went on, stretching patience past its limit. And then it happened. From the far end of the economy cabin, a teenage voice spoke up. "Sir, may I try?" Michael turned, confused. Walking down the narrow aisle was a tall, slim black boy, no older than 16. His jeans were faded, his backpack patched in several places, and his shoes had clearly seen better days. But his face carried calm, the kind of calm Michael hadn't felt all day. The passengers looked stunned. One man scoffed, "What's this kid gonna do?" The boy didn't reply. He just smiled politely and said again, "Sir, may I hold her for a minute? My baby sister used to cry like that. I think I can help." Michael hesitated. Everything in him said this was crazy strangers didn't just take your baby mid-flight. But something in the boy's tone made him pause. It wasn't arrogance. It was confidence. "Who are you?" Michael asked quietly. "Daniel," the boy said. "Daniel Brown." From Detroit. Michael looked around. Every eye in the cabin was on them. Some people shook their heads. Others smirked. A few even pulled out phones, ready to record the billionaire's humiliation. Michael swallowed hard. He looked out at Lily. Her cries were hoarse now, her little chest rising and falling fast. His hands were shaking. He slowly nodded. "Okay, Daniel, go ahead." Daniel moved closer, his voice calm and low. "It's all right, little one," he murmured as he gently took Lily in his arms. His touch was careful, practiced. He adjusted her position, resting her head on his shoulder and lightly patting her back in a steady rhythm. Then, softly, he began to hum a slow tune, simple and deep, the kind that sounded like home. The change was instant. Lily's cries broke into small hiccups, then quieted. Within seconds, she let out a soft sigh and went completely still, eyes half closed. The cabin froze. Even the engine seemed quieter. Michael's mouth fell open. "What? How did you?" Daniel smiled faintly. "My baby sister used to cry like that all night. Mama said babies don't just cry because they're hungry. Sometimes they just need someone who isn't scared." The words hit Michael hard. He wasn't sure why, but they did. He had been scared not of Lily, but of failing her. From the first-class rows, whispers spread again, but this time, softer. A woman gasped. He stalked her crying. Another said, "I can't believe it." Daniel carefully handed Lily back. "She'll sleep now, sir," he said quietly. "If she wakes up again, just rub her back in small circles like this." Michael took her, still stunned. "Daniel." "Thank you." Daniel nodded, stepping back toward the aisle. "You're welcome, sir." He was about to return to economy when Michael stopped him. "Wait, how did you learn all that?" Daniel shrugged. "I just paid attention. My mom worked 2 jobs. I had to help." There was something in his tone, not sadness, just truth. Michael wanted to ask more, but Daniel had already turned away, disappearing past the curtain into economy. For the first time in hours, peace filled the cabin. Lily slept quietly in Michael's arms, her tiny hand resting against his chest. He leaned back, finally breathing, but he couldn't stop thinking about that boy. The way he spoke, the confidence, the care, it wasn't something you could fake. He looked toward the back of the plane, but Daniel was gone from view. Only his words lingered in Michael's mind. Sometimes they just need someone who isn't scared. Michael felt something stir inside him, not guilt, not pride, but curiosity. Who was that boy? Really? As the plane continued through the clouds, Michael didn't know that this chance meeting would change both their lives forever. And before this flight landed, the billionaire would realize that the poor boy who stopped his baby's cries wasn't just gifted with compassion. He was a genius about to change the world. When the plane finally touched down in New York, Michael Carter felt like a different man. He had spent the last 2 hours watching his daughter sleep peacefully in his arms, her tiny breath slow and steady. The crying had stopped long ago, but the sound of that boy's calm voice still echoed in his head. As the seatbelt sign went off, passengers began to stand, stretching and collecting their bags. Michael didn't move. He kept looking toward the back of the plane, hoping to catch one more glimpse of the teenager who had done what no one else could. When Daniel finally appeared, carrying his worn backpack, their eyes met. Michael rose quickly and walked toward him. "Daniel, wait a second." The boy stopped, surprised. "Yes, sir?" Michael smiled faintly. "You saved me back there. I owe you more than I can say." Daniel shook his head. "You don't owe me anything, sir. I just wanted to help." But Michael noticed how Daniel's backpack was torn near the straps, patched with tape. His shoes were thin at the soles. He looked like a kid who had carried heavy burdens long before this flight. "You said you're from Detroit?" Michael asked. "Yes, sir. I live with my mom and 2 little sisters. What brings you to New York?" Daniel's eyes brightened for the first time. "Actually, I'm not stopping here. I have a layover. I'm going to Boston for a math competition." Michael raised his eyebrows. "A math competition?" Yes, sir. The International High School Mathematics Championship. It's my first time flying." There was pride in Daniel's voice, but also something else, a quiet hope that didn't quite trust itself to grow. Michael smiled. "That's impressive. You must be pretty good." Daniel shrugged modestly. "I try, sir. My teachers say I see patterns fast, but I wouldn't have made it this far without my community. They helped raise money for my ticket." Michael blinked. "You mean your neighborhood?" "Yes, sir. The folks on our street, the baker, the barber, even the lady who runs the small grocery store. Everyone gave a little. They said I had to go represent Detroit." He smiled shyly. "I didn't want to let them down." Michael felt his throat tighten. Here was a boy who had nothing yet carried himself like someone who owned the world. He glanced at Lily in his arms, still sleeping peacefully. "You have a gift, Daniel," he said quietly. "Not just with math, with people." Daniel looked surprised. "People, sir?" "Yes," Michael said. "You knew how to calm her when no one else could. You didn't panic. You cared." Daniel lowered his eyes. "I just remembered my baby sister. When she cried, I used to hum so she'd think someone was near. Sometimes all people need is to feel safe, sir. Even babies." That simple truth hit Michael again. Even babies. He wondered how long it had been since anyone had made him feel safe. They walked off the plane together. Other passengers now looked at Daniel with admiration. A few even thanked him as they passed. For once, Michael didn't care about his image. He wanted to know more. "Where are you staying tonight?" he asked. Daniel hesitated. "At a budget hotel near the airport. My mom booked it online, the cheapest one she could find." Michael frowned. "That doesn't sound right for someone representing the country in an international competition." Daniel chuckled softly. "It's okay, sir. I've slept in worse places. All I need is Wi-Fi and a quiet corner to practice." Michael studied him for a moment, then made a decision. "Daniel, listen. I have a few business meetings in New York before heading to Boston myself. Why don't you stay at my hotel? You'll have your own room, meals, and a quiet place to study." Daniel's eyes widened. "Sir." "That's too much." "I can't, it's not charity," Michael interrupted gently. "Think of it as a thank you for helping my daughter." Daniel bit his lip. "But my mom, you can call her right now," Michael said. "She'll know you're safe." After a pause, Daniel nodded slowly. "Okay, sir. I'll call her." A few minutes later, outside baggage claim, Daniel stood with his small phone pressed to his ear. "Mama, you remember the man I told you about? The one with the baby on the plane? He's offering to help me. He says I can stay at his hotel." Michael waited quietly. He could faintly hear the woman's voice on the other end, soft and cautious. "Yes, ma'am," Daniel said finally. "He seems kind, and his little girl's real sweet." He paused, then smiled. "I promise I'll be careful." When the call ended, Daniel nodded. She said okay. That evening, as they checked into the five-star hotel, Daniel could hardly believe his eyes. The marble floors gleamed under golden lights. The air smelled of fresh flowers. He had never seen anything like it. "Is this all real?" he whispered. Michael smiled. "Yes, Daniel, it's real. You deserve to see places like this." They reached Daniel's room, bigger than his entire apartment back home. When he stepped inside, he froze. "Sir, this can't be for me." Michael nodded. "It's all yours. Rest. You'll need it for the competition." Daniel turned, overwhelmed. "Thank you, sir, for everything." Michael looked at him kindly. "Don't thank me yet, Daniel. Just do your best tomorrow. That's all the thanks I need." Later that night, after putting Lily to bed, Michael sat near the window, thinking about everything that had happened. He thought about how Daniel had walked down that aisle with nothing but confidence and kindness, how he had turned a chaotic flight into peace, and now how he had spoken with such humility about his life. Michael saw something in the boy that reminded him of his younger self, back when he had nothing but dreams and hard work. As city lights glowed beneath the window, Michael whispered to himself, "Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe I was meant to meet him." In the next room, Daniel sat at the desk, reviewing math problems on his laptop. But between equations, he looked toward the crib, where Lily slept through the wall, smiling faintly. He didn't know that his kindness on that plane was about to change his life, and Michael's in ways neither of them could imagine. Because by morning, the competition would begin. And soon, the world would see what a poor boy from Detroit could do when someone finally believed in him. The next morning, sunlight spilled into the tall hotel windows. Daniel woke early, long before his alarm. He sat on the edge of the bed, holding his competition ID badge in one hand. It felt unreal, like he was dreaming. For the first time in his life, he had slept in a soft bed with clean sheets. The breakfast, waiting downstairs, looked like something out of a movie. But none of that mattered as much as what lay ahead, the biggest test of his life. Michael met him in the lobby, carrying baby Lily in a small blanket. "Ready, champ?" he asked with a smile. Daniel laughed nervously. "As ready as I can be, sir." Michael nodded. Then, let's make Detroit proud. At the competition hall in downtown Boston, hundreds of students filled the huge room. Laptops, papers, and calculators covered every table. Flags from different countries hung above them. The room buzzed with energy. When Daniel entered, a few students turned to look at him. Some smiled politely. Others whispered. He was the only contestant in worn sneakers and a hand-me-down suit. But his eyes stayed focused. He had not come to impress anyone. He had come to prove that brilliance had no color, no zip code, and no price tag. Michael sat in the audience with Lily in his arms. He couldn't remember the last time he felt this invested in something that wasn't business. Watching Daniel reminded him of the fire he once had before wealth dulled it. The first round began. It was individual problem solving. Daniel's eyes scanned the page, his mind moving faster than his pencil. He wrote quietly, lips moving slightly as if whispering numbers to himself. Within minutes, he finished the first set, double-checked, and moved on. An older student beside him peeked and muttered, "There's no way he's that fast." But Daniel wasn't showing off. His brain worked like rhythm steady, smooth, certain. He wasn't just solving, he was seeing the problems, like pictures in his head. By the end of the round, he had scored among the top 5 participants. His name appeared on the leaderboard, and a few heads turned in surprise. Between rounds, Michael caught up with him. "You're doing great," he said, patting Daniel's shoulder. Daniel smiled. "Thanks, sir. I just keep thinking about everyone back home. They'd never forgive me if I gave up now." Michael laughed softly. "Then don't. You're showing them what's possible." The second round was teamwork. Daniel joined a group with 3 other students, all from private schools. At first, they ignored him, choosing to discuss among themselves. But when they got stuck on a complex geometry problem, Daniel spoke up. "If we draw the diagram differently, we can use the reflection line to find the missing value." The others hesitated. "You sure?" one asked. Daniel nodded. "Yes, try it." They followed his logic, and suddenly everything made sense. Their time improved, and the team began to trust him. By the final round, Daniel wasn't just helping solve problems he was leading. His calm voice guided them through the toughest challenges. When the competition ended, applause filled the hall. The judges collected the papers and disappeared for scoring. The air felt thick with suspense. Michael stood, bouncing Lily gently. He didn't care if Daniel won or lost. In his eyes, the boy had already proved himself. But Daniel couldn't sit still. He thought about his mom, his sisters, his teachers. He thought about how far he'd come from late nights studying under dim lights to standing here among the best in the world. Minutes later, a judge walked to the podium. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "thank you for your patience. We have the final results." Everyone went quiet. In first place, representing the United States, the judge paused. Daniel Brown, Detroit, Michigan. The room erupted in cheers. Michael jumped to his feet, clapping hard. Even baby Lily laughed as if she understood. Daniel stood frozen for a moment, shocked. Then he walked slowly to the stage, eyes wet, lips trembling. The judge placed a gold medal around his neck as cameras flashed. When he looked into the crowd, he saw Michael smiling proudly, holding Lily up high like she was cheering too. After the ceremony, reporters crowded around. "Daniel, how did you do it?" one asked. He hesitated, then spoke simply. "My mom always says, use what life gives you. I didn't have much money, but I had a brain and a reason to try. That's all I needed." The audience applauded again. Later that evening, back at the hotel, Daniel sat quietly by the window, medal still around his neck. Michael walked in with Lily asleep in his arms. "Can I sit?" Michael asked. Daniel nodded. "Of course, sir." For a while they said nothing. The city lights twinkled below, cars moving like tiny stars on the road. "You know," Michael began, "when I first saw you on that plane, I thought you were just another kid trying to be helpful. But today, I realized something. You're not just smart, you're special." Daniel smiled shyly. "Thank you, sir." Michael continued. "You remind me of myself when I was young. I grew up in a small town. My dad was a janitor. People looked down on us. I built everything from the ground up. But somewhere along the way, I forgot what it felt like to struggle." He paused, his voice low. "Meeting you reminded me." Daniel looked at him curiously. "Why are you telling me this, sir?" Michael took a deep breath. "Because I want to help you. My company has a foundation for young geniuses from poor backgrounds. From now on, everything your school, your scholarship, your future, it's taken care of. You'll go to MIT, Daniel. No bake sales, no stress. Just focus on your dream." Daniel's mouth fell open. "Sir, you can't be serious." "I am," Michael said. "You changed my life on that plane. Let me change yours." For a long moment, Daniel couldn't speak. His eyes filled with tears, but he wiped them quickly. "Thank you, sir. I don't even know how to say how much this means." Michael smiled. "You already did when you helped my daughter. You showed me what real kindness looks like." Daniel looked at Lily sleeping in his arms. "She taught me too. Even babies know when someone truly cares." They both laughed softly. As the night deepened, Michael thought about how strange life could be. One small act of kindness, a poor boy helping a crying baby, had connected two worlds that were never meant to meet. When Daniel finally returned to Detroit weeks later, his whole community gathered to celebrate. His story spread across the country, the poor black boy who calmed a billionaire's baby and won the world's math competition. But for Daniel, it was never about fame. It was about faith that doing the right thing, no matter how small, could open doors you never imagined. And for Michael, it was about rediscovering something money could never buy: humanity. As he watched Daniel walk across the MIT campus months later, Michael whispered to himself, "All because of a crying baby." Sometimes the loudest cries lead to the quietest miracles. Dear viewers, sometimes the smallest moments can change a lifetime. On that flight, a poor boy's kindness silenced more than a crying baby. It silenced judgment, pride, and the walls that divide people by class and color. Daniel didn't just calm a child, he awakened a heart. This story reminds us that greatness doesn't always wear suits or sit in first class. Sometimes it walks in worn-out shoes, carrying hope, humility, and love. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more real, emotional stories like this one. And tell us in the comments what's one simple act of kindness you'll do today. Because you never know, that one moment might change your life too.